Welcome to Gusto with Ashley Sterling.
Hey guys, welcome back to Gusto with Ashley Sterling. My name is Ashley Sterling, and this is the first episode of 2021. I'm very excited about this episode because a dear friend from Orbit Media sat down with me in early December, virtually of course, to discuss his unique journey from journalism to being a conversion copywriter for Orbit Media. It is my honor to introduce Brian O'Neill. Hey Brian, how's it going?
Hey Ashley, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I love the festive lights behind you.
Thank you. The blue one's actually burnt out, so now it's just intermittent white lights blinking.
Just,
Yeah, it's kind of,
I got like a little lame white Christmas tree with Halloween decorations on it. So.
No, that's fantastic. It's, right? I mean, yeah, it's 2020. Like, there's anything to go. Yeah.
Exactly. So, what is your beverage of choice?
I have a Snowy Owl Red Rye Ale from Sketchbook up here in Evanston.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Well,
What do you got?
I have a White Claw.
Oh, that's a very fancy glass for White Claw. I like that.
Right? It's I felt it was appropriate, right?
Oh, definitely. Tis the season.
Tis the season, exactly.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, Brian, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you came to be maybe in the most recent role, and then we'll go back and kind of do a deep dive from there.
Yeah. Well, I'm Brian O'Neill. I'm the conversion copywriter at Orbit Media. And I kind of came to that role through just a series of jobs increasing in the business. Not really sure, we can get into that a little bit more, but it started out not in a very normal place, I guess. Even through that, through a lot of link building and then blog writing, and then kind of came to Orbit. And, like yourself, I'd always been a fan of Orbit. Like I read the blog all the time and, talked to Andy. And then I just happened, they had their annual blogger survey one year in 2017. And like, I got that in my inbox and I thought, I haven't checked the Orbit job board in a while. I'm going to check that out. I was definitely in a weird dead-end job that was going nowhere.
Yeah.
The office itself had been closed for like 6 months, and I'd been working from home with really no assignments. So in a way, it was ideal, but you could see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And then I saw Orbit was hiring, and like I nearly broke my fingers jamming the keyboard so quickly to apply. Like just getting it.
Gotta do it.
They got an email from Amanda Gant, and it's like, oh, that's the woman from the email. She's famous.
She's famous.
Yeah, you're the one with the face. The pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you're everywhere. You're all over Orbit's social stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, that was really exciting, and got the job. And Orbit they had some copywriting positions, but they were looking to expand it a lot more and expand what it meant. And I think Andy had gotten the idea of the conversion copywriter from Joanna Weeb, and he said, we need one of those. And
we need one of those.
It definitely wasn't my title at the time, but I was like, sure, yes, I'll do that.
Yeah. So what is, like, for those listening that aren't in marketing, what is a conversion copywriter?
It's basically, all copywriting is meant to drive action. Obviously, a lot of it's meant to drive emotion, maybe whether that's actually buying something or reading further or, signing up for a newsletter or whatever. All copywriting is that, but the conversion copywriting is certainly for websites, is, trying to make sure that as the user flows down the page, there's always an action for them to take, whether that's to continue, as simple as continue scrolling, whether that's to, download a Gartner report, whether that's to finally contact someone. So it's really the theory of setting up the information architecture as someone moves down the page, having their conversion flow, whether that's to one endpoint or whether that's, just a bunch of off ramps, depending on the purpose of the page. So every page is a designated conversion. Really, every page depth, every scroll level has something we want them to do. And that's getting the language right, move them forward, figuring out what, if they're at that specific part of the page, if they've managed to scroll down 3/4, what is their threshold for action at this point? Why are they still on this page? And what can we do to get them to continue to take action?
And
So,
is conversion copywriting, like would any sort of business or influencer marketer, even those who maybe are working independently, is that something that they could hire a freelancer for or learn how to do on their own? Like, how
oh
did
no,
you
they
like,
absolutely hire me.
hmm?
They absolutely have to hire Orbit.
Exactly. There we go.
Yeah. Um, no, that's a good question. I think yes,
Hmm.
definitely to an extent, because all you have to do, all you have to do is understand the psychology of the visitor and
Yeah.
the like why they came to the site, what they want, and why they need what will impel them to take action.
Hmm.
And so I think if you're a business owner and you know your customers, you already know instinctually what makes them take action. If not, you're already out of business.
Right.
So you already know like why they need your gadgets, if you're in
Hmm.
the gadget business, or widgets, I suppose. You already know why they want that because you understand their pain points. You're feeling a need, so it's just a matter of translating that into language,
Hmm.
punchy language, and incorporating all the best practices, SEO, and all of that stuff, which isn't necessarily something that is intuitive.
Right.
Um, but people understand. If you're in business, you understand what converts. You understand your clients' minds.
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So do you also through Orbit, for again, for kind of for those who don't know what Orbit is, kind of give us a rundown of, give us your pitch, if you will, for Orbit, as a marketing company or a web design company or all of the above, digital focused content company with Andy and Amanda and Brian.
Yeah, so Orbit is a web design company. We're based out of Chicago. We're pretty much entirely in Chicago. We have a few people who have been with us forever who had to move for whatever reason, who work remotely. I mean, we all work remotely now,
Right.
in theory. Um, and we're a small company where our clients get incredible amounts of attention. Essentially, everybody has a team where, we have a few designers, we have a few copywriters, but it's not an assembly line process. What we kind of do is take the website as a holistic idea, where it's not here's the copywriting bucket, here's the UX bucket, here's the design bucket.
Mhm.
Our SEO teams work together, the copywriting teams work together with the designers to figure out that conversion flow, whether that's through the best UX experience and then combining that with the actual visual elements, what's going to keep people moving down the page. So when you work with, like, our idea is we're a small company,
Mhm.
but you pretty much have a dedicated team to you. You have a team where everybody has ownership over the project,
Yeah.
including the developers. Like, you know, um, we have a really cool project that we've been working on where we got our developer, a woman named Jessica, who's just brilliant, involved really early, and we're like, how can we tell this story? And she figured out this incredible way to use parallax action up and down the page to kind of
Yeah.
move people through. So we're getting everybody's minds on the project, and of course Andy Crestodina is the SEO kind of guru of all gurus right now. And so the ethos in the company is, if you can help someone, if you can teach someone, we'd
Mhm.
like to teach our clients so that they can drive. We want to give them a
Absolutely.
website that they can drive as soon as possible.
And you guys just redid your website.
We did, yeah. We
Yeah.
had the typical cobbler's kids website where, we didn't, it was due for an upgrade for a long
Uh-huh.
time. Yeah, yeah, that was a fun project.
I love the before and after aspect of it in
Yeah,
that top panel there.
I'm always worried. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, what is the domain is orbitmediastudios.com, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Or just
So
orbitmedia.com too. Either one will get you there.
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so check it out for sure. But continue.
Oh no, I was just saying
Apologies.
I'm always worried that it's going to freeze, like someone's computer is going to freeze on one of the before screens. And you're like, oh, this is a terrible site. Why are they showing us this?
Oh no. Well, maybe they need better internet if it freezes. So I guess we're all kind of at the mercy of our local providers at this
Yeah,
point,
that's
right?
true.
So before Orbit Media and before you were in marketing, you did let me know that you originally started out in journalism. So kind of give the audience or the listeners just kind of some insight into maybe what inspired you to go that path or that path that path. Was it through school? Was that something you always wanted to do growing up? Like what inspired you maybe as a kid or in your teens to pursue that sort of type of communication or type of storytelling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, writing was always my thing. It was pretty much the only thing I could ever do. And just, the words, that sounds stupid to say. I like words. But
I like words.
I like words, yeah. The written language obviously has always been just a passion for me. Like I devoured books growing up and, could never really stop reading. And I had no capacity for writing fiction whatsoever. Even as a kid, when I wrote short stories, I was like, man, this is garbage. This story is terrible. Like, why did the robot do it? Why was there even a robot? Like, there's no point for that.
He was a Terminator. It's okay.
Yeah. um, and then, yeah, I was always super interested in the world. Like, I don't want to get dark or deep or anything like that, but
go in whichever direction you want to go in.
I think I was like
your
14,
story.
like 12, 13, 14, when like all the stories of Bosnia were coming out, and then the wars there in Rwanda, and that was kind of formative for me as a teenager. Just seeing everything that was going on there, and the people I was reading about it, they were really kind of heroic to me. The people who are surviving throughout that, but the journalists who are telling the stories. I mean, every journalist has a bit of a hero complex where it's like, if I tell their story, then I'm the hero, which is a whole nother bag of apples there. But yeah, so I always wanted to be a journalist then, and I always wanted to travel around and tell stories and see the world and, just find out what's out there and to try to convey that.
Yeah.
And so,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I studied journalism in college at Butler. I dropped out of college before I got my degree because I thought I can be a freelancer. And so that was a wise move.
I mean, I went to hair school, so, here we are. Or cosmetology school, if I want to make it
I've never heard of
fancy.
hair school. I like that.
Yeah. Usually when I remember I've ran into a couple of people throughout the years of, oh, so you're a scientist? Because I'll say, yeah, I went to cosmetology school. I'm a cosmetologist. And they're like, oh, so you have like a PhD? And I'm like, no, bro, it's hair school. But I mean, sure, I'm a hair scientist if you want to.
I mean, it's science. Science is about figuring out the ways to make something different. Figuring out
Absolutely. I mean, we do.
Master war.
You mess with bleach, you mess with chemicals, and I mean, I'll wear a white coat and make 7 figures. Sounds great. But continue.
Oh no. So yeah, then I bounced around for a long time, going kind of back and forth between here and overseas, and mostly the Middle East and Africa, or well, entirely the Middle East and Africa. Never anywhere nice. Well, they were all really nice, but never anywhere relaxing, I guess. Yeah. A lot in the Congo, Rwanda, Tanzania, so the Rwanda thing kind of carried through. But I spent a semester abroad in Cairo, and so the Middle East was always, especially growing up, like that was always my kind of, even as a dumb kid, sort of the romantic Indiana Jones idea of it, like I'm going to go over to these places, and then actually learning that there were human beings there and it wasn't just an adventure thing.
Right.
Maybe want to tell those stories and want to be over there.
Now, while you were traveling, were you keeping track of where you were traveling on a map that was like kind of translucent with the Indiana Jones theme song going on in the background? Please tell me yes.
Unfortunately, not literally, but it was in my head constantly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Full whip and everything, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say was like the most impactful experience during your time traveling and seeing, the good and bad side of humanity?
This is going to sound super cliche, but I mean, I think I was in the Congo, and this was in 2002, so there was still a very large active civil war going on, especially in the eastern portion. And so, yeah, there was pretty savage, just the violence there was kind of extreme. And, yeah, you saw some pretty horrifying things. But the people whose lives were just thrown into chaos by this violence, their spirit of moving forward and caring for each other, you never really know what people can do until they're actually pushed to do it. And so, like, I just remember being in a refugee camp there, just a dumb kid, out of place. I couldn't help anybody. But the people there just pulling together, and they founded a clinic for children who were starving. And they had nothing at all, but just saving these people. And there's one little girl who had been dying a couple weeks before, just running around and playing. And like, we played for a couple hours, and just the smile on her face was just incredible. So yeah, that was, wow, I haven't thought about that in a while. Sorry, this is getting deep.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. So was she okay? Do you know?
When I left, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah.
So that was something that was really, really impactful, just a really powerful like experience that you had as a journalist at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, sorry, maybe this is even, I don't know, I don't want to keep going into, there's the time when I was in Syria, this was well before the war, on a bus and driving, and the kid next to me, I mean, he was older than me at the time, but he couldn't have been more than mid-20s. He was a soldier. He was just visiting his family, and we're having a little conversation in his not very good English and my much worse Arabic, trying to go back and forth, just talking about family and stuff. And then we got off the bus. This was in Aleppo, in northern Syria. And like, he took off his watch and gave it to me. And I barely, I was backpacking. I barely had anything. I gave him like a book or some candy or something, but he gave me his watch. And I still have it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he's just like, here's our friendship, America, Syria, friends. And it's sad. I mean, Aleppo's been completely destroyed, and I have no idea what his life is like, but I still have that watch. That was just this moment of human connection and friendship.
What like an amazing token. That's amazing. Like, you should pass that down if you have children, or give it to your nieces or nephews.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep it in the family. Ongoing human connection passed down.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So with all of that experience, what led you to working in marketing? I mean, you have a very impressive background in marketing, from like SEO, like you're just kind of across the board. You have a lot of really great experience. So what pulled you out of journalism and into marketing?
I mean, there were a few things, sort of serendipity in a weird way. As a freelancer, I definitely wasn't always making a ton of money. And I was living with this a girlfriend at the time, and then I could contribute rent, but only if people were buying stories. And then we were she decided there was enough of that, and so I had to find a place to live, which means I needed to get a job. And I was just talking to a friend. I was like, "Hey, your company hiring?" And he said, "Yes." And I had never worked in any of this before, and they were sort of an SEO company. They weren't quite black hat. They certainly weren't white hat. They're kind of in the gray area. They were still doing like buying links and selling links and stuff like that. Not 100% bad, but it definitely wasn't working. I'd never been in the business before. Like, it's terrible to say, but in journalism school, I was like, well, there's marketing and then there's journalism. Turns out I did.
You're like, both please.
Yes. So like, I started working there, and I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, this SEO stuff was really interesting to learn about. As a journalist, you this was back in the like 2009, 2010, where we were really beginning to recognize like, oh, this industry, we really need to shape up. And I was in no position to do so. But then learning about that, I was like, well, this actually kind of makes a lot of sense, because it's not just, this is after a few algorithm changes that Google had. Like, this was after, I think Penguin was the one back then. And so they became a lot smarter about like key phrase stuffing. So there was kind of a shift there. So it wasn't just like, I'm going to throw in as many keywords and just write this gibberish.
Google's like,
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. So it's like, all right, well, this actually makes sense. Like, as a writer, like, I'm beginning to see how you can like incorporate these keywords, because it's not just the words, but it's what people are need, not just what they're typing in. And I know that sounds really redundant, but just as a mental shift for myself, it was, all right, this is actually having to learn about what motivates people. And then I got another job at a company that wrote blogs. Their whole thing was writing blogs for other companies. And I was there for probably 3 years. And that was really where it kind of shifted. It's like, all right, we've got the keywords, but the keyword is just the anchor. Like the real hook is what actually is going to motivate people, what's going to bring them in, and what actually is going to make them interested in what we're producing and what we're writing. And so the ability to say like, all right, this is, when we get a new client, I've got to learn everything about them. I've got to learn everything about their audience. I need to really get into the psychology of it. So it was definitely journalism adjacent in a way that I hadn't realized that marketing could be. I thought there were these two worlds and never the twain shall meet, but there actually were a lot of connections in it. And I began to enjoy it a lot more. It was more, I need a job because my girlfriend kicked me out. And then, oh, I really like this.
Yeah. Oh, sweet. I mean, I've certainly seen a lot of crossover, especially lately, with journalists and copywriters. And I mean, really, it kind of, copywriting is a form of journalism. It can be a form of investigative journalism even.
Absolutely, yeah.
And having the same kinds of, I guess, like a Rolodex of contacts is really beneficial from your journalist background when coming into being a copywriter for link building purposes or for just expert quotes or sharing. I mean, it's so if you were to give yourself like one piece of advice when you just got out of college and we're going into journalism or starting to travel, starting to backpack, what's a piece of advice you would give to yourself looking back now?
I guess the first one would have been actually finish college first before you jump into it. That'd have been the right thing.
Hey, we do what we want. It's cool.
Yeah. No, I think it would have been, as weird as it sounds to say, I definitely wouldn't have believed it then. I would have said, don't close yourself off to things that are changing. Don't close yourself off to the new way of doing things. Don't think just because, this isn't how people did it while they were smoking cigars in the 50s and, drinking whiskey on the job, like that it's bad. That there's a lot of value in, you think you have an open mind because you're in journalism or whatever, but if you close yourself off to these other opportunities, not even just opportunities, but modalities of doing things, just the way that, again, it sounds dumb to say, but the way that technology is going to change, not just like the economics of your profession, but the actual way that people interact with your profession. I was definitely very slow on the upkeep with that. It was very much, the written word. I don't even want to publish something online. I didn't even have a blog until like 2009 or something like that. Something ridiculous.
Live journal. Just kidding.
Yeah.
MySpace.
Yeah. It would be not to be stubborn and not to be resistant to change, because even if things sound initially silly, like, I mean, yeah, even what you're saying, MySpace, Facebook, anything like that, like the word, I remember talking with a bunch of old journalists in, I think in Cairo about just the word blog. And we were like, blog, what does that, that's not a word, and then, 5 years later, we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and moving forward, anybody like right now, everybody, it's almost like listening to music. You never think that you're going to be the person who thinks that new music sucks.
Yeah.
But it can really happen if you don't pay attention to it, if you don't catch yourself from doing that.
Absolutely.
And so even if you're, super young now and you're like, oh, I'm very tech savvy, which you probably are, in 5 years, you could be that person who's like, I don't like these new things because I already understand this thing. And it's really easy to do that. And I definitely did for a long time.
Yeah.
But it closes itself off. It precludes possibilities. Like you're not actually keeping yourself open to things. You're,
you're cutting off a potential pathway, a potential avenue.
Pathway, or just a potential thing that you might enjoy. Yeah.
Absolutely. I noticed that kind of reaction specifically from Gen X and millennials with TikTok. I love TikTok. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed. I'm on it every day. I send my
Really?
colleagues funny little animals that I find on TikTok. It's amazing. Like, it's not just dancing, it's everything. And I think within like the pandemic, with everyone at home, they have to, you just see these new creative personalities coming forward. And I mean, I follow people as young as, late teens all the way up to their mid 70s. I mean, it's a huge range of individuals, from animal rescues to marketers to just influencers, right, who have their
Yeah.
own makeup line and they love spooky things. I mean, it's a really unique platform, but every single time I bring it up to like the majority of millennial friends, Gen X friends that I have, it's, oh God, TikTok. And it's like, no, but there's a huge audience there. So
Hmm.
I'm really curious, and this is something that you noted, like what kind of, I feel like TikTok is as successful as it is because of the pandemic. So kind of looking at the impact of the pandemic on the world, on our industry, on every industry, like where do you see it going as news of the vaccine develops, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's faint light, but it's there.
Yeah.
We're almost through the mountain. It's like Lord of the Rings, right? And it's,
Yeah.
okay, Gandalf's gone. Okay, let's get out. We need to get out right now. COVID is right there. So where do you professionally or personally or both feel, the world is going to go following the pandemic?
I think one of the main one of the weird things is and I'm guilty of this too. Like, I think, all right, we're going to get the vaccine. And I was looking at, I don't know if you saw the Times today had like a thing, where do you fall in line for the vaccine? And you put in like your age and your health and your profession and stuff. And I was pretty much at the end,
Yeah, same.
which I should be. I'm happy to be, that's
Yeah.
definitely fair.
Huh. Crap, I'm stuck in this apartment for that much longer.
Yeah.
Fine. Everything's okay.
Yeah, everything's fine. I got my Halloween tree.
Yeah, I got my Halloween tree, I got my cat. Okay.
I think we have a mentality where, there's going to be the vaccine. We're all going to get it. Switch is going to be flipped. And first of all, we're going to have the best summer ever. It's just going to be, the last days of Salo in the streets. Like, it's going to be incredible.
Right.
Which I think there will be an element of that.
Yeah.
But, it's going to be a slow rolling thing. I mean, even today, Pfizer announced they had supply chain problems. So they're shipping out 50% less this month than they thought they were going to, which they'll smooth it out. That's what supply chains do.
Right.
And so, but even more than that, like, I think throughout all the next year, we're still going to be rolling out these different phases. And there's not going to be a moment. There's not going to be a day where we wake up and we're like, all right, we're past the pandemic. This is in the past now. Even if we have full immunity, people will still be thinking about it. Like, even after you get the vaccine, are you going to run down to, Russian division and, throw yourself into it? Or are you going to be thinking like, oh, there's a crowd here?
Yeah.
Even if you're safe, there's going to be mental aspects of how you go about your daily life. And I think that's going to translate to how we write copy and how we create websites and how we market things. Because people aren't going to want to be beaten over the head with it, but it's going to be in our head for years.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember when people got over the Spanish flu. I'm not that old, but I'm sure it took a while. Like, people were probably still thinking about it until, throughout the 20s. I mean, there's even some arguments that that's why the 20s were so debauched and wild, is because people, they thought they could die at any moment from this terrible disease. Thankfully, we're not quite there. But people are going to be thinking, if I plan something for 3 months in advance, is it going to happen?
Right.
If I make a purchase, is this actually smart? Because I don't know what's going to be happening next week. So I think all copywriting and I think all conversion strategies and really all marketing has to take into account that people are going to be both a little, I think they're going to be more cautious. There might be more impulsive things, but I think in terms of like companies really investing in things, or people planning, they might buy something for tomorrow, which is fine, but they might not really be thinking, I'm going to buy something with a 3-6 month wait period or ROI, a long-term thing. Certainly for for B2C,
Mm-hmm.
I think consumers are going to be more wary about planning long-term things. So I think that's, like wedding industry, convention centers, just
Absolutely.
anything where you're going to be doing that, people just don't know. And I think what we have to do as copywriters, as marketers, is take that into account
Mm-hmm.
and just give people a lot of options and, make it very clear paths to, like we had a company or a client who they do award ceremonies and they create amazing trophies and not even trophies, that's like plaques and awards, these giant things, really
Yeah.
custom. Um, and they also help to plan the ceremonies and everything. And, as we were getting ready to launch, this was a month or two ago, we had to say, like, we need to make these very clear paths for people to say, like, here's what we can plan and here are the other things, here are the contingency plans.
Mm-hmm.
Just because this isn't going to go away. Like, we're going to be thinking about this forever.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
how many TikToks are there about this? That's the oldest thing I could possibly say. How many TikToks are there?
How many TikToks are there?
How many TikToks you got about this pandemic?
Oh my God. Well, that's that's an interesting thing about the algorithm on TikTok is once you watch one video and you like it, you interact with it, you get more that are related to it. If you are conservative and you like conservative TikTokers, then you have a more conservative, like For You page is what it's called. Or alternatively, if you're more liberal, same thing. I just interact with a bunch of cute animals and sometimes pandemic stuff and marketing too.
So were you doing TikTok stuff before like the pandemic hit? And have you noticed a shift in it or?
I personally, I haven't posted on TikTok. I just have an account because I like it. But what I've noticed especially is a huge increase in freelancers and outsourcing, like huge increase. I mean, people are who are laid off for this reason or that reason are learning how to do Google Ads like on the go. They're actively doing it, actively getting hired to do it, and they're trying to make ends meet. But it's also really interesting to see just how companies are using it, how the C is using it, the government's using it. I mean, it's pretty impactful. But what I do notice, kind of circling back to the corporate lingo, circling back to the freelancer stuff, huh?
I said, let's take this offline.
Yeah, let's put a pin in this and we'll circle back per my last email. Please let me know if you have any questions. But it's freelancers. I'm seeing a huge increase in freelancer and remote work. In fact, one big trend that I've been noticing, and again, this is probably just through my own like personal TikTok ventures and things that I like, but van life, right, is becoming a huge thing.
Yeah.
You drive all over the country and you work remotely as a freelancer, or some even just go from location to location, the location of the franchise that they work for. Like REI is a huge supporter of that.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm wondering how corporate America is going to be impacted. I feel like internationally it's going to be impacted without a doubt, but corporate America specifically, our 9 to 5 days a week type of corporate push, since you have a lot of international experience, what do you think is going to be the biggest shift potentially that we see from the pandemic?
That's a really tough question.
It's a really big question too. Yeah. I'm sorry, I just kind of
no,
threw it at you.
No, I love that. I'm very skeptical about corporate America generally. Very. So there's part of me that thinks they're going to try to rubber band back to where we were in December 2019. But I think there's a possibility, and I might not have even thought this till you asked this and talked about the influx of freelancers. So this isn't a cohesive thought by any stretch, that there will be more worker power in a way, and freelancer power, and this kind of remote idea that people actually do have a chance to say, if they there might be a critical mass of workers who say, we are not really interested in coming into the office 9 to 5. I'm not interested in, relocating my family to New York or Chicago or Poughkeepsie or wherever it might
Right.
be. Like, I don't need to do that. You don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It clearly works for me to be
Mm-hmm.
remote. You've paid me to work remote for the last 18 months. Like,
Right.
why am I going to change this all of a sudden?
Mm-hmm.
The flip side of that is that corporations, if they feel or that they don't have to give people a stable, steady job,
Mm-hmm.
like it could lead to even a greater proportion of like the gig economy in the creative field.
Yeah.
And which could be dangerous for people because could be dangerous overall because I mean, like, this is one of the last fields that's not going to be automated.
Mm-hmm.
I hope.
Yeah. Knock on wood.
Yeah. But if worker protection and stuff can be stripped because they say we can just get some guy in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
Poughkeepsie. I've never been there. I'm sure it's a fine town.
I've never been there.
I apologize to any Poughkeepsie listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
His email is no, just kidding.
I got on the wrong side of the Poughkeepsie Chamber of Commerce. You don't come back from that. You don't come back.
Game over, man. Game over. Anytime you can quote aliens is a good time.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Bill Paxton.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a chance that it can be used to almost accelerate kind of a race to the bottom, looking for workers.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, talent wins out, I think, a lot of times, and I think it can in this. This is a global upheaval. Like it is one of those hinge moments in the world. And so it could be a chance for people to actually say, no, this is how we want to work. Mm-hmm. We don't need to work in this way. We don't need to work in the way that's been kind of defined for the last 60, 70 years.
Right.
I mean, that happened in the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
People said, hey, we've been, being forced to go into coal mines for, in these terrible factories, we don't even work in coal mines. Why are you making us go down here? And then like the Depression happened and workers for a while were really shut down. But then there was the great rise of unions.
Right.
This podcast is getting very political. I apologize.
Oh, I'm here for it. Let's go.
I mean, that upheaval led to great resurgence in workers' rights for a long time. And now there's a chance it can again, or there's a chance it could just make everyone so atomized and competing against each other that, I don't know. I hope the former.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, it's almost, it's kind of, there was such a like sex appeal to corporate America from the 80s, right? So you're looking at like the Wall Street. You're looking at Wolf of Wall Street is a great movie example / real story of just someone who knew how to work the system and he worked it to his advantage and he got busted, but he then turned around and like made it work for him. So obviously he's a terrific salesman, but that kind of success and power and sex appeal that corporate America had. I mean, like even in American Psycho, like he's out of his gourd, but he's still like admired and wanted, and he has a nice apartment in Manhattan, and it's
great business cards.
Yeah. This is Eggshell. Huge movie buff, obviously. I'm just like, let's pull him out. Yeah, I was quoting Mr. Mom last night, and I didn't even realize it until my brother called me out. But yeah, I mean, like, there was such a focus on you must graduate high school, you must go to college, you must, intern for free, you must climb the corporate ladder, and you have to stay there for 30 some years, and don't quit because your family won't eat, and you want the white picket fence, and you want all of this, and that's great and stuff. But I kind of see this almost a unique rebellion in, I'll work 9 to 5, but I'm going to do it from the Rockies of Colorado, or, I'll do it from base camp at Everest because I want to travel. I want to be able to experience the world and not just work 9 to 5. So I think that's an interesting dynamic, and I'm really happy to see large tech companies like Google and I don't know if Facebook has done it, but and some Amazon workers, though they're hiring 2,600 on average people a day for their anyways. But yeah, but like Google especially, you know, they are known for their office culture. They're known for their kind of relaxed, like, here, work from a beanbag while you're sipping on fresh Pepsi or whatever they do.
Fresh Pepsi.
But they're like, no, we want you to work remote, and if possibly forever if you want to. I
Yeah.
think that that's a huge positive example of a company that is, you know, certainly we have jobs because of Google and because
Yeah.
of
Oh, absolutely.
the
Yeah.
different things that Google has put in front of us. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like, if I guess just like if a freelancer kind of becomes the new norm. I mean, there's tons of startups. Like there's one in Colorado called GigWorks. It's GIGWORX. And it was only started, I think, a couple of years ago. But it's specifically to hire contract workers for like events or for you know, just any kind of like work that you need, additional waiters, waitresses, of course, before the pandemic. But so I see it's a lot of the startup freelancer culture that's really coming to the top, and people are allowed to create, or allowed, they're able to create their own small businesses through like Squarespace and Wix. Though you should hire one of our companies to do your website if you're going to do that, because we'll do it better. But anyways, but that being said, like what is, like, have you seen, like, with your years in marketing, with your years in the industry, certainly working for Orbit Media, you know, being a part of Content Jam, for example, so being in touch with these huge marketing individuals, what unique shift have you seen that kind of surprised you since starting in marketing to now? And it could be as recent as last week, or it could be 5 years ago.
I mean, I think I think maybe one of the bigger shifts is that this is going to be a long-winded analogy, and I apologize.
Excellent. Let's go.
But like one of the things that was really coming up, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even more now, time doesn't mean anything, was, you know, voice search and how that was changing. And I remember, you know, several years ago, every company wanted an article about how, when I was doing blogging for people, of how voice search was going to change things. And I wrote like a million exactly the same articles on everything, until the point where I got sort of bored with it. But what it really did, I think, you know, the idea of the voice search was the idea of making everything much more natural, and the idea of making things a lot more how people spoke, and the idea of like, it's not just typing in, you know, Mexican restaurant, Ravenswood neighborhood, I want this, but actually, you know, just it becoming part of our, it was much more tied into our lived experience, I guess. And so I think like a lot of corporations and a lot of companies in sort of a similar way decided, like, you know, we don't have exactly these staid rules necessarily. We don't have a lot of this, you know, you have to fill in X, Y, and Z in order to get, you know, the desired result. Like,
Right.
And I think that ties in with what you were saying. Like, there are these different ways of doing things now. And, you know, I think even Google itself was surprised by how quickly voice search changed everything, and how quickly, like, that I don't want to type in whatever, I want to type in, you know, Mexican near me, you know, if I'm even going to be typing it at all.
Right.
Where's the best taco I can get here? Until it's dinner time. And I think,
are you going to order Mexican? Is that what's going to happen?
I kind of feel it's inevitable at this point.
I mean,
yeah.
I fully support it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna do a voice search for best Mexican in Poughkeepsie and see what I can get.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like, I think there's, things don't have to be as formal as they were. Things, for a long time, I think companies were still saying like, hey, we're the cool company. We're not formal, but there was this
We wear jeans.
Yeah. You've heard of Casual Friday? We have too. We're not doing that, but we're thinking about it.
Yeah, maybe next quarter.
Yeah. It wasn't just this new skin for the old ceremony, but they're actually saying, all right, maybe we don't have to do this anymore, and maybe we can't do this anymore. And I think that ties back to what we were talking about, where workers have a chance to actually demand the lives that they want and not the lives that were decided for them to have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in terms of like working for a company like Orbit Media, what is your favorite memory of working for a company that's known internationally but is a very small team respectively? Like what's your favorite memory of working there?
I would say my first Christmas party there, but I actually don't have many memories of that, unfortunately. But the ones I have were really good.
Just a couple of glasses of wine.
Yeah, Andy pours big glasses of whiskey.
He does. He knows how to pour his alcohol.
Andy is a consummate host.
Yes. Andy, you can definitely sponsor this show by sending us both wine if you would like. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll plug your book.
We'll plug it. I mean, one of them or all of them, whichever works.
Gosh, there are a lot. I don't know. I mean, every day, when we went in, every day, I'd find myself laughing like an idiot with some friends before 9 a.m. Like just,
Yeah.
But I think one of my favorite things about it this year, it was March 13th was the day we realized we were all going to shut down or going to have to go home. And that was a Thursday. They made the announcement like, hey, we're not going to start. And that following Monday, we had just hired a new copywriter, Siobhan Clymer, who's brilliant. She's way better than I am. She's amazing. And so she was going to start that following Monday. And like, I had, throughout the interview process, I was like, yeah, this is the one. I'm so excited for her to start. And so like, when they said, hey, or you guys are going home, I was like, what does that mean for Siobhan? Like, I don't know. Like, all right. And I like steeled myself. I'm like, I got to go talk to Todd, our CEO, and Kurt, the head of the design department. And like, I'm going to make sure that whatever happens, Siobhan's taken care of. This is important to me. And so I walked up to him like, we really need to talk about Siobhan. I'm like, oh yeah, no, we've talked to her. We took care of this. We're making sure that she's got everything she needs. Like, in the midst of all this upheaval, they thought of their newest employee. They had already thought about what it was going to mean for her and how they're going to get her involved and how they're going to get her onboarded and make her feel part of the team.
Amazing.
And that spoke a lot to me. Like, they think about their people in a way that I've never experienced in a company. I've worked for some good companies, but Orbit really considers what it means to have a good work-life balance, and not just in a corporate cliche way, but to actually, what it means to work and what it means to live. And I know you've experienced it. All our Orbiteers sound like cultists. Like we really do. Like we really, really do.
One of us.
Nice, Todd Browning, nice Freaks reference. Perfect.
I feel the same way about Peloton. So, it's fine. I'm literally trying to get my colleague to buy one. And every single time I send the one of us gif. Every single time. Every time. Also, Peloton, if you want to sponsor this podcast, we'll let you.
Yeah, no, Peloton, you definitely should.
Yeah. Or, just like, I don't know, send us cool free stuff. That's also great. That's down for perfect. Swag. Swag's great, right? Peloton's rad.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Highly recommended.
It's the official sponsor of Gusto with Ashley Sterling.
Exactly. Come on, Peloton, please.
If you will it, it'll happen.
I'll buy your treadmill if you're a sponsor. I'll give you money if you just sponsor me. You don't even have to give me anything. I'll pay you. But yeah, no. So Orbit's amazing. I remember going to my first Wine and Web right after I was hired at the Loop Marketing, and I was just like, wait, so I get to like drink wine and eat pizza and learn about content, and this is rad. And that's Andy. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, like, oh, I probably should have had a little bit more pizza because I'm feeling a little buzzed and I got a 30-minute train ride, but it's cool.
Well, I guarantee you weren't the only one.
Oh, I know I wasn't.
Yeah.
But it's actually interesting because at one of the Wine and Webs, I can't remember what her name was, but she didn't work for Orbit. But we were talking about the gig economy actually, and she was quite adamant that it wasn't gonna continue to really be anything, and then now it's like the opposite almost. It's like now it's bigger than ever because people lost their corporate jobs,
Yeah.
or lost their job at a restaurant or a service worker. So it's just, yeah, it's interesting. If you guys are ever in the Chicago area, look at Orbit Media Studios and check out their Wine and Web. Though right now it's Wine and Web on the web.
Yeah. One webinar.
Yes, you can still have as much wine as you like.
You absolutely can.
However, my question for you is, what is your favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie?
Well, I mean, the favorite is obviously T2. I mean, that's one of the best movies of the second half of the 20th century. Just brilliant.
Oh,
everything about it
perfect. Yeah.
But we just rewatched Total Recall last week, and I saw it when I was much younger, and it scared me because it was just way too, not like scared, but it was way too grimy for when I was younger. Like I just didn't like it. I felt gross. I was like, that's not what the future looks like. The future shouldn't look like that. It should look like Star Wars. It should look
Jetsons.
Like,
anything.
Yeah, I don't dig it. And it's interesting to see Schwarzenegger kind of try to play against type. Like he tried to be a normal guy in the beginning. Like the whole thing was he was and he's just like, oh, I have a job and I don't know if I love it. That's terrible.
I work construction. No, you don't, Arnie.
Yeah, no,
Come on.
Don't. Yeah, like all his coworkers were just these like slobs. It was like
he's just like
friends.
perfect.
Yeah.
Right. My question though about Total Recall.
Yeah.
What do you think actually happened? Was he or wasn't he? What do you think?
I mean, reading it metatextually that he was Arnold Schwarzenegger, like yes. But I think it's more interesting if he was not.
Yeah.
Wait, would it be? Well, there's a kind of a happy ending. So yeah, I think it's more interesting if he wasn't, and he just sort of managed to believe this, and then was having a psychotic episode, and probably didn't pull out of it.
Maybe that's what happened to us in 2020.
It would be interesting if the hero actually did have a psychotic episode. If he was the hero, but the whole movie was still fake. Like he went back into the Total Recall and he flipped out, and then he had this future vision that actually wasn't real. That's a much darker spin on it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. That he was the guy and he was going to go back. But remember, they were trying to keep him out of the Total Recall thing because they said if he had been there, then it would, there'd be too much mixing. So that would be a good metaphor for the time where the hero tries to do the right thing and thinks he does, but everything, it's nonsense. It's failure.
It's nonsense.
Yeah.
Nothing. Brian, thank you so much. This has been a blast.
No, this was fantastic. And I really appreciate it. This was great. I had a really great time.
Yeah, me too. And it's so good to see your face again.
So good to see you again. Yeah.
I see you on Wine and Web occasionally, but it's nice to be able to actually interact. I always do get paranoid though that my camera is on when I'm attending Wine and Web because I don't look like this.
I feel like you could definitely tell you went to the science school.
Right? I went to the science school. This is what we call a galaxy.
Is that? Oh, wow, that was really good though.
It's a hair galaxy. It's fine. The swirl. It's cool. Don't worry. There's a black hole right in the middle. Right? For those who are not watching, they're going to be like, what?
It is a magnificent coif.
This magnificent flutter of stars and galaxies and dreams and hopes. Thank you so much. Do you want to real quickly plug your company's website and let them know where they can find you?
Yeah, go to orbitmedia.com. You can find us all there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's O'Neill of Chicago. There's almost nothing. No, there's literally no marketing stuff there. So if you want to follow me about marketing, there's really no options for that. And I sometimes blog about books on shootingirrelevance.com. There'll be a big year-end review coming up pretty shortly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brian, thank you so much.
No, thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. What is that sign off? Good morning, good evening, and good night. Obviously, Jim Carrey is on my mind.
Yeah, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
There we go. Perfect sign off. Thank you so much. Brian, thank you again for sitting down with me. It was an honor to chat with you, to learn about your history, your journey, the heartaches, the triumphs, and of course, learn which Arnold Schwarzenegger movies are your favorites. If you would like to follow Brian on Twitter, his username is O'Neill of Chicago. That's ONEILLOFCHICAGO. You can also review some of his blog entries at shootingirrelevance.com. For more information about Orbit Media Studios, check out orbitmedia.com. As always, these resources will be on my website, ashleysterling.com/resources. I'm very excited for everything that is coming down the pipeline in 2021. Got some great content lined up for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, you're a champion.
For more resources, head to ashleysterling.com and subscribe to Gusto with Ashley Sterling wherever you listen to podcasts.